Hey guys, Shaker is here for another in-depth League Informative, and today's episode is about the new Trinity Force and Phage that were changed in patch 3.10a. If you are unaware of the changes, Phage no longer has the Icy passive, which was replaced by Rage, an oriented on-hit movement speed passive. That being said, there was a price reduction on Phage from 1,415 gold to 1,250 gold, and thus there was a price reduction on Trinity Force as well. Frozen Mallet maintained the Icy Slow passive, but obviously no longer builds out of Phage. Now, let's start with the math, and starting with Phage, the base stats on it are actually not enough to cover the cost of the item. The total stat worth is 1,215 gold, whilst the cost is 1,250, so it's slightly cost inefficient. However, we haven't factored in the movement speed passive, and just to make it clear, one can get the value of movement speed by basing the value off of Boots of Speed. So, assuming you're getting 20 movement speed from attacks, the Phage value goes up by 260 gold, bringing up to a total of 1,475 gold. This means the stats on the item are worth 225 more gold than the cost, or 18% if you prefer. Now, assuming you just kill the minion, you'll have an extra 60 movement speed for 2 seconds, bringing the item up to a total value of 1,995 gold. So that means the stats on the item are worth a staggering 60% extra in stat value if the second part of the Rage passive is active. Speaking of which, let's talk about Trinity Force real quick. Assuming all base stats and only base stats, Trinity Force is worth 4,315 gold. So the item is worth 687 extra gold when compared to the cost, or 19% more. Now, if we insert the Phage passive's Rage into the mix, Trinity Force will be worth 4,575 gold, which is 947 more gold than the cost of the item if you get 20 movement speed from auto-tagging, or even 5,095 gold, which is almost 1,500 more gold than the actual cost of the item. And this is if you have 60 extra movement speed, and this means the item will be worth an extra 40% more than the actual cost. Now, by looking at the numbers, you'll see that Trinity Force looks like a really strong item, but these numbers aren't 100% correct for two reasons. Movement speed has two soft caps at 415 and 490, meaning the 60 movement speed you might get may be reduced if your raw movement speed is above those caps. And secondly, the Sheen procs aren't taken into account. This means I'm not factoring in the extra damage. This is because Sheen depends on other factors that we can't account for, such as cooldowns, base AD that depend on the champion, so I decided to skip it. So, now for all of you who skip the math or don't like it, don't worry. For some of you, I can understand it's pretty boring. I just made a small table with the gold efficiency on Phage and Trinity Force with both of the Rage passives. Remember, Sheen damage is not taken into account. Okay, math down. Next, I want to mention item combinations that you can do with Trinity Force or Phage. If you want to be even more mobile, one thing you can try is to combine Trinity Force with Blade of the Ruined King or Furor. Or you can even go for all three and be super slippery. Up to you. The other combination that now makes more sense with the Phage changes is stacking Trinity Force with Iceborne Gauntlet or Frozen Mallet. The perma-slow effect means you can easily constantly reapply the movement speed increase buff, especially if you're melee. So it's really good on champions like Nasus that want to keep close to the target. And just to clarify, if you have both Iceborne Gauntlet and Trinity Force, you'll do the Trinity Force Sheen proc, which is the strongest, but you'll have the AoE slow on Iceborne Gauntlet as well, so it's the best of both worlds. Now for champions, I'm going to mention the champions that in my opinion do best with Trinity Force. Starting with AD carries or marksmen, I want to mention three, the most obvious ones being Corki and Ezreal. Corki used to use Trinity Force back in Season 2 and kind of fell out of favor when Trinity got nerfed, but the recent changes made him spring back into popularity and he's currently top 5 in the win ratio. He fully uses Trinity Force and he can apply Sheen multiple times, and between Phage, Valkyrie and Flash, he'll have a lot of mobility. Ezreal is a natural contender for Trinity Force as he can apply the Sheen procs very often and with Mystic Shot, and you can see that he's a good champion for Trinity Force if you know his history. He used to build it a lot back in Season 2. If you want to be extra annoying, slip in an Iceborne Gauntlet as well. It's nearly impossible to catch an Ezreal with this combo and Arcane Shift. Truly one of the most annoying solo queue moments I've ever had. On Lucian, you don't actually see TriForce that much, but it's a super strong item, as Lucian is a very bursty marksman. Bloodthirster into Trinity Force gives a lot of damage in a short window of time, and you can reapply the Sheen a lot due to low cooldown on your Q. Phage is also a good pairing with Ardent Blaze. As for bruisers, the most common ones include Jax, Irelia, and Poppy. Jax relies a lot on stickiness, and even on OGN we get to see someday going for Trinity Force plus Blade of the Ruined King combination, a very high damage and very bursty combination that gets rid of targets really fast. As for Irelia, if you use Blade Surge before a minion dies, you'll get that huge burst of speed, which may allow you to cover more distance in less time and make sure no one escapes from you or that you can escape from someone. Poppy was already amazing with Trinity Force. The new changes make her a force to be reckoned with if she hits those core items. Others are worthy of a mention too, such as Udyr, Shen, Lee Sin, Nasus, Skarner, Xin Zhao, and Trundle. I'd be rambling about the pros of getting the item on all these champions, but I'd ultimately bore you all. One thing I'd like to mention though, and this has been voiced by other people as well, is that Phage currently only builds into Trinity Force, at least in Summoner's Rift. Which is a shame because there are far more champions that can use the stats on Phage than the ones that can use the stats on Trinity Force. Okay, last but not least, I like to talk about tips when using Trinity Force, and I've got two very good tips. First, remember that Sheen has a 2-second cooldown. It may be beneficial to delay the usage of an ability slightly to get more procs and thus more DPS. This goes for any type of Sheen item, not just Trinity Force. And secondly, killing a minion or monster with Phage or Trinity Force will give you that 60 movement speed buff. So using this to your advantage may allow you to escape or close in on a target faster. This is especially cool with Smite. You can smite a creep when ganking to get that extra movement speed buff, allowing you to close in on a target. This is especially important on melee junglers like Skarner, Udyr, or Volibear, for example, that need to get very close to deal damage and successfully gank. That's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe and leave a like if you did enjoy it. I'll see you guys in the Rift. Chakra is signing out.